Hi, this is Peter Woolfolk speaking. Now, first of all, thank you so very much for listening to the podcast. Now, I am very excited to let you know that the podcast is now available on Amazon Alexa. You know the drill. Simply say, Alexa, play Public Relations Review Podcast, and she'll take it from there. And again, thank you for listening. And if you enjoy the program, please become a subscriber. Now, on to the podcast. Hello, this is Peter Woolfolk, producer and host of the Public Relations Review Podcast. When I conceived this program, my idea was to provide public relations practitioners with a wide variety of solid, useful information and guidance from public relations professionals across America. And we are doing that. I will continue to cover important topics such as crisis communications and artificial intelligence and other such important topics. But I will also address other issues such as diversity in public relations, marketing to women, public relations trends, various data concerns, and much more. From time to time, I will also invite vendors of public relations products on to help you better understand how these products can improve your efficiency and your effectiveness. You will learn a lot from our podcast, so thank you for listening, and please inform your colleagues about the Public Relations Review Podcast and continue listening. Thank you so very much.
Welcome. This is the Public Relations Review Podcast, a program to discuss the many facets of public relations with seasoned professionals, educators, authors, and others. Now, here is your host, Peter Woolfolk.
Welcome to the Public Relations Review and to our listeners across America and around the world. Not long ago, I received an email that stated, in part, I would like to discuss during your podcast on how a small business, particularly Lewis Price & Associates, realized they needed a communications expert in the company. Now, after speaking to the CEO, he understood that the employees, partners, and clients did not have a clear understanding of what we do or provide. So I said to myself, I'm sure that many other public relations people have heard this scenario before. This is probably an ideal time to invite this young lady on so that she can articulate her actual activities and strategies for how she helped this company grow and thrive with an effective new public relations program. So my guest today is Lisa Slappy, who is now the Chief Communications Officer with Lewis Price & Associates. She joins us today from McLean, Virginia, that is just outside Washington, D.C. Now, Lisa is a communications professional with 25 years experience in diverse public relations, public affairs, has management experience, and much more. Now, included in that time are 18 years experience supervising and training employees and public relations leaders. So, Lisa, welcome to the Public Relations Review.
Thank you so much for having me. Wow, what an introduction.
Well, I tell you, I think it's fair because this is a scenario that I'm sure many of PR folks have heard over the years. You know, what is the value of public relations? So I think it would be great if you could tell our audience how you began this journey and began to make your CEO a believer and what has happened as a result of your not only talking to him, convincing him, but now that you've started to work for this company?
Well, one of the things that we've done, I think public relations, first of all, is a very important art and science when it comes to any business. Lewis Price & Associates, they're located in McLean, Virginia, and they're a staffing and career development company. The president and CEO, Ken Coleman, I worked for him on a contract at the Defense Information School as an instructor teaching and training military officers from the U.S. as well as our international partners how to conduct public affairs, public relations, media relations, and how to interact when it comes to social media. So when I was working on that particular contract for him, he would come down to the school and check on his team members because he doesn't call us employees, team members. And one of the things he realized was how we were so engaged with the students. And as we began to talk, I began to ask him questions about the company. And some of those questions he was not able to answer about, our brand, who we are, what we do. He knew, of course, because he built the company, but being able to communicate that externally was an issue. So we talked for about a year as I was working for him, continually to teach at the Defense Information School. And we got to a point where he was ready to have someone come down and work at corporate headquarters who was a professional when it came to communication across all venues. And once he realized that's what he needed, because we were growing, the company was growing, and he was ready to take the next step, he knew he needed that.
Now, let
the
me
conversations
just ask you,
we had for a year was good. I'm sorry.
no, let me just ask you then, well, what were some of the hot buttons that made him respond, that he recognized that, oh, my goodness, I just never thought about that? What were some of those hot buttons that you touched on that basically helped him see the light?
Some of those hot buttons, I would say, included our brand, what we stood for. How do you communicate internally and to your employees? How do they know what's going on at some of your other sites? Because Lewis Price, we have team members across 15 states, and one team member in one state may not understand a part of the company and what, let's say, accolades, great things we're doing, because there was no way to inform them. I asked questions like, well, internally, how do we communicate? Externally, how do we communicate? And then what do we communicate? What's our message? What's our brand? How, what are just some of the basic questions that a communicator would ask? And he began to think about these things. And as he told me, he said, well, I know you know your company and what you stand for, but do your clients know? Do your partners know? As a matter of fact, do your team members know, the ones who are in a different state or right down the street? And so he began to think about that. And I asked questions about our logo, what it meant, the name Lewis Price, where did that come from? So it's those types of questions. And he said that he realized, yeah, I think, I'm doing a great job. We are getting the contracts. We are providing staff. But the people who are actually working for the company, they do not have the foundation of who we are and what we do and why we are the way we are.
Did he understand, or did you help him understand that employees are very, very important people of the PR program, because they help represent who you are and what you do and how you do it?
Absolutely. Through our conversations, that was one of the things that we discussed. It was the part about them not knowing enough about the company, who we are, what we do. So when I came down to corporate headquarters, that was one of the first things that I implemented, was a way to let our team members know who we are, what we do, why we do what we do. And that was a hit. That was one of the first things that I did. And when I went to corporate headquarters, I was the director of communications, and I implemented a strategy to get not only internally but externally also the information about who we are and what we do.
Well, talk a little bit about what that strategy actually was. What did you actually do to make these things happen?
Okay. So when I went down to corporate headquarters, the first thing I did was survey to find out, okay, what is it that we do? Who knows what? The different people that are in certain positions, what do they know? What do they do? And then find out a little bit about the team members who are spread out across all these states. What do they know and what do they do? Then I said, okay, what type of communications do we have now that I can build on or that I need to create? And what I found out is that I needed to create a pretty much communication program from the ground up. Mm-hmm. And once I realized that, okay, so this kind of works for me because, hey, I get to build it the way I want to build it. Sometimes falling in on something is nice, but sometimes
Absolutely.
Building it the way you want to build it is like the best. I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. So I did appreciate the fact that he knew he needed communications. The second thing I appreciated is that he trusted my expertise. He was like, okay, you tell me what we need to do and we'll do it. And one of the first things that I did, and this is something that I'm very proud of, which is so simple, is a folder with our logo on it. And for me, I was like, hey, we don't have anything that stands out that says this is Lewis Price.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing I got was folders. We got the logo on there. We're ordering this big logo on the folders. And what happens now, anytime he goes anywhere, he takes that folder, those folders. All his information that when he travels or whatever is in a Lewis Price folder. And I have had people ask me, hey, what is Lewis Price? Because the logo, it's a big logo on the folder. But those are like simple little subliminal things that stand out. Mm-hmm. So the folder was the first thing. And then the other thing that happened, everyone at corporate has the folders when they're out and about, or even when we're transferring, paper back and forth, we put stuff in those folders and when we take it out. So those are the things, minor things like that help. And the other one was I created a quarterly newsletter, an internal employee newsletter to let the employees know this is what's going on in your company. This is who you work for. These are some of the things we're working on at corporate. And then we highlight employees out in the field about things that they're doing. Mm-hmm. So it's those types of things and you can see the change. I saw the shift in people communicating with corporate headquarters from information we were putting in the newsletter and asking questions as well as providing information.
My experience also helps me understand the value of an employee newsletter, because large organizations, too many times, I should say, they focus just on what it is this organization is doing, and they do not include the employees in there. They don't feature the employees. And yes, you might talk about the employee's job or their accomplishments, but one of the things that caught on where I was and what I did was, let's talk about the personal accomplishments that some of these folks have made or their families have made. Their kids got a scholarship to college, or so-and-so daughter won a piano competition. Those kinds of things helps build family in an organization and a cohesive working atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. We definitely highlight our employees, and we will ask a question. We, ask questions about their hobby, accomplishments. We'll ask something about their family, and that's when they'll tell us things like, my son won a BMX contest, and their hobbies. And then they have the opportunity to explain to us some things that they want their other team members to know about them. Mm-hmm. On the other side of that, we have an opportunity to explain to them some of the things we are working on to continue to grow, to ensure that they feel comfortable and safe in their jobs, as well as with the company as being stable and continuing to grow. So we do both sides in the newsletter. And the other thing we always do is we ask, hey, is there anything you would like to see in your newsletter that you're not seeing? Is there some other areas that you want covered? We consistently ask questions of them, what they would like, along with what we're providing, because it's a two-way street.
Well, the other benefit of that is once you build that kind of cohesive relationship in an organization, it also begins to help, I would say, you build up some sort of a feedback system, because sometimes the employees, those on the line, spot problems. And that management might not see or be aware of. And if they feel comfortable, there is a way for them to talk about what those problems are and offer suggestions for turning it around.
Oh, yes. And our team members, they definitely have the opportunity to do that. We have a variety of ways in which they can ask questions as well as give us some suggestions about some things they need to change. And another thing that we do, we have socials. We have quarterly socials. And another thing that I implemented was Team Member of the Quarter. And that is where we highlight a team member from any of the organizations that work in any of the 15 states. They have the opportunity to fill out a form, and they tell us a little bit about them. They tell us about their job. They tell about how they made a difference, with leadership, with work, with assisting others. And what happens is they send in the Team Member of the Quarter form along with all the information, and we get to choose one, because it's a great program, because we have team members who send it in, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, and then we have a scoring system. We pick one. That team member is highlighted in the newsletter. That team member receives a $500 check. That team member receives certificate of appreciation, and the team member also is interviewed. We do video. So we make a big deal out of it. And they also get 8 hours of PTO added to what they already have. All that's included for being a team member of the quarter. So it's one of those programs that morale has definitely gone up. It's quarterly. We have an opportunity to see how some of our team members are doing out in the field that we don't have an opportunity to talk to on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
That is another program that I implemented to show that's the internal side of what we're doing. I've also worked on the external side, some things that we need to do, because once I kind of got that going, that's kind of self-fulfilling. It's quarterly, those things happen. The newsletter is quarterly, team member of the quarter is quarterly. They were already having quarterly socials. So internally, they're getting that.
Good. And I'm glad you mentioned external. That was my going to be the next topic I touched on. So take it and run with it.
Okay, so externally, I would say that 80% of my focus as a chief communications officer is externally, because we're a business and we're constantly, growing and looking to get other clients. Our primary clients right now are the federal government. We have contracts with DOD, Department of Defense, Defense and Media Activity, Homeland Security, as well as others. But we also have some commercial clients. So the focus is to build relationships and partnerships, and we have partners, and focus on, okay, we're here. Let me tell you what we do and how we can help you, because we're a staffing and career development firm, and we want to talk about what we can do to help you, so that you don't have to focus on staffing. So with that, my boss said, hey, he likes football. We were at a Redskins game. That's just, we're in this area. That's the team we were at. So we went to a Redskins game one day, and he was saying one day that, you know what? He turned around and looked up and said, one day I want to be up there. I said, well, what's up there? And he said, the suites. I was like, okay. And he didn't know that when he said that to me, what that meant. From a communications point of view, that meant, wow, okay, if we're up there, maybe our name can go around the stadium. We'll be able to meet the people that he keeps talking about as far as potential clients and potential partners. So I took that and I ran with it. He didn't know I was going to run with it. And because I asked him, I said, are you sure you want to be up there? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay. And that's when I started making the phone calls, making the connections, going to Redskins Park to talk to the right people in corporate sponsorship, things like that, so that we can communicate and raise brand awareness on a level that he wasn't accustomed to. And once, work through the layers, talk to the people, what happened, I was able to make the connections. We talked, we did everything we needed to do, and then we were able to get the contract. And now we're partners with the Washington Redskins.
See, that's a great idea. It's always good to hear how you took someone's suggestion and expanded on what it was that they were perhaps considering and made it work for them.
Yes, because when he talked about it, as he said, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what I can get out of this, but I know that it's something that may work. I was like, I got it. And I knew who to talk to, and I knew the areas that we needed out of that. We needed brand awareness. We needed partnerships. We needed exposure. We needed to be in the right room with the right people so that he can make, get the new client. So I knew what I was going on there to say, this is what I want to get out of the deal, and they'll tell me, what they want. So those conversations happened over a few months. And then they came down to corporate headquarters and they sat and talked with me, the CEO and the COO, and they presented information. We talked about who we are and what we do, and we were a great match as far as staffing and coaching and, NFL. So, of course, we make it work. So we talked about those things, and now it works. But as he said before, his communication and understanding the brand awareness and getting people to recognize our name, he didn't have the requisite skills to make that happen. And that's another reason he brought me down there, so that I can talk him through and put us in those positions that, that media relations, that community engagement, the local teams, all those things from the communications point of view is something he knew he was missing. And he's seeing the benefit of that now.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you ever consider getting him opportunities to speak in terms of professional groups? You mentioned staffing, how you've done certain things, things that where there were obstacles that you overcame those. I mean, that's another way, of course, of communicating what it is you do and how you do it.
Yes, we are definitely looking at, because it's only been a year, believe it or not, since I came down there, and I was the director of communications for a year, and so now I'm in my first full year as chief communications officer. And just during that year, another thing that we've done is the Inc. 5000. We did the paperwork, and I talked about it, and I knew we're a great company, and we were named 4,026 on the Inc. 5000 company, fastest growing companies in the U.S.
Correct. I think it's 500, isn't it?
5,000.
Oh, it 5, is? Okay. I know they boosted it up some. Okay.
Yeah, there's the Inc. 500, there's the Inc. 5000. They have both. We're on the Inc. 5000.
I got you. Okay.
What's significant about that is this is our first time ever even looking at being on this list. Secondly, the ability for us to communicate, this is what we do, how we do it, and to actually make the list was a big deal for this company. And I'm always looking for him to go out to speak to organizations, and we're working on that, like other staffing companies or other companies that deal with anything about how to be a good CEO. So he belongs to a group of CEOs, and they support each other and help each other. So he belongs to groups like that. And we're looking, like I said, the Inc. 5000 was another big thing that we just did. And actually making that list and being on that list also gave us additional exposure.
Well, no, I was about to say that, those kinds of acknowledgments where you do have a write-up about you and your company and people in it certainly goes a long way, as well as awards that perhaps the company may have won in the process of doing, what it is you do.
Exactly. And those are things that we're working on. I know we won an Alexandria Award. That was in 2018. We're looking at other awards that may be coming our way. So every year, we're growing, we're getting better, he's trying, we're moving forward when it comes to communication and getting the acknowledgement of who we are and what we do. The fact that we went from nothing pretty much to being named the Inc. 5000 company, to having a newsletter, to having team member of the quarter, to partnering with the Redskins. And all of that comes from communication, as well as, the company itself, but talking to the right people and understanding the benefits of brand awareness, the media relations, the community engagement is the other piece that we do. They were doing some community engagement, but now that has increased to where we donate food to the local food banks. We definitely donate supplies to some of the schools in the District of Columbia and the Virginia and Maryland area. So things like that are also a part of being a good steward in our community. So those are things that we're working on also too. So we're covering all gamuts. And for media relations, the other piece is he's been able to go and talk on a television show in New Orleans, a radio show. We were in New Orleans to do that, to promote brand awareness, because we're continually trying to grow, and that's one of the areas that we're looking at growing into. So I ensure that we do media relations, community relations, community engagement, internal communications to our team members. So we want to make sure that we cover all gamuts. So the communications piece is big, as well as the marketing and advertising, because we do advertising in the USA Today special edition. So I've been able to do that. That also has brought a notice to who we are when it comes to staffing.
Now, has he asked you, or have you guys sat down and tried to determine, since the public relations program started, were you able to identify any increase in revenue? Because a lot of times, a lot of programs or activities have some sort of revenue attachment to them, to demonstrate to him, as a result of doing A, B, C, and D, we in fact really did increase our revenue over the last couple of years by X number of dollars.
Yes, he has said that because not only communications, but because of other things that were already in place, that we have been able to increase revenue. And I can't remember what the percentage was, but he definitely has said that this has definitely contributed to that, especially the Redskins exposure. I mean, that is a big exposure. You know, every home game, our logo goes up. And then we have the suite notification. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that. The Inc. 5000, the fact that had we not done that, we wouldn't have gotten the recognition. So those things he sees that has driven traffic, of course, to our websites. The second part is name recognition, and then the people that he's meeting and potential clients because of the communications that we have out there and putting him in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think those are some very, very substantial things that you've accomplished since you started there, and actually brought all this to his attention. Just wondering now, as we wind down, anything else that you think we should know about the successes that you've brought to Lewis and Price and Associates?
I think that when it comes to communications, and I try not to pigeonhole it into one area, because I know people have a tendency to say just public relations or marketing. But when you're the chief communications officer, you're handling all of it. Social media, you're handling TV, radio, print, you're handling marketing, advertising, internal, external. And so the goal for me is to deliver measurable benefits, you know, while tying all the information together to support Lewis Price and Associates, you know, with our message about who we are, our intention, our integrity, and leading through example. I see the benefits. The most important piece for me is that the CEO, the COO, they see the benefit of a strong communications program, and they are receiving the accolades and the benefit from this brand awareness, this promotion, this messaging. And the part you said about our team members, those are our brand ambassadors.
Absolutely.
The other part that we'll be working on this year is talking to our team members and ensuring they understand the importance of them being a part of the team, but the messaging and what we expect from them, but also what they can expect from us, ensuring that we're all saying the same thing. So that's the other part that we'll be working on this year. That's one of my priorities. And the second is to ensure that we continue to grow and promote the brand in a positive way of providing staffing and career development, not only for the federal government, but for other businesses out there. Because the goal is we provide quality people and quality jobs. But one thing we do is we ensure that the people we place fit that culture. And that's one of his sticking points, is to ensure that we just don't place a body in a spot. It has to be the right person, because at the end of the day, we want our team member to be happy, but we want our client to be happy too.
Absolutely.
So that's the things that I'm pushing out there to make sure that's what sets us apart from other staffing companies. And we're not like a temporary, we're full-time, and our jobs are consistently, multi-year. So those are things that I'm definitely ensuring that I push out there, making sure that the training that we're going to do when it comes to media training for our team members as well as for the executive staff, that's right on, because as we grow, they're going to need this type of training.
Absolutely. Well, Lisa Slappy, let me say thank you so very, very much, first of all, for your email that triggered this interview. And I think that coming from you, the experience you've had, you're in the trenches, you made it happen, you saw the changes that were brought about from installing and implementing an effective communications program that a lot of our listeners perhaps can listen to and benefit from. So I certainly thank you for bringing it to my attention. And again, I'd like to thank all of our listeners for joining us, and of course to join us again for the very next edition of the Public Relations Review.
This podcast is produced by Communication Strategies, an award-winning public relations and public affairs firm headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, This is Peter Woolfolk. First, let me say thank you so much for being a listener. Now, I want to alert you to our shiny new podcast website located at podpage.com. However, you can go directly to the podcast site located at publicrelationsreviewpodcast.com. There, you can contact me through email. You can leave a voice message. You can leave a review. You can read an episode blog and frequently learn about the podcast guests. You might also want to suggest podcast topic ideas or even suggest a guest. You can also let me know if you would like to receive our podcast listener logo that you can post on your social media. So I look forward to hearing from you about our new podcast website. Thank you so much for listening to the Public Relations Review podcast, and have a great day.